Hey, everybody. This is the 6-week buyer high output productivity training. Everyone's jumping on right now, so we're going to get started in about T-1 minute. This is the 6-week buyer high output productivity training. My name is Nate Mclean. I'm the owner of the Nate Mclean Real Estate Group here in Wenatchee, Washington, and over the last decade, I've helped coach, lead, train agents to sell over $1 billion in real estate, 5,000 transactions, the majority of them on the buyer side of the business. Well, roughly half. It's a good 50-50 split. In our marketplace of 70,000 people, we sell 1 out of every 5 homes. There's times where on the hot sheet or the MLS, we represent nearly every buyer. And I'm going to share with you the proven and repeatable process we use and follow to really eliminate the need for luck, really eliminate the need for a favorable marketplace to be productive, to have a successful career, because we've done it through some up markets and down markets. My background starts as an ice road trucker in Anchorage, Alaska. I became a wildland firefighter during college and fought fire throughout Northwest and North America. I then became a commercial airline pilot through flight training and an ab initio program where I went from 0 hours, no experience, to the 747 in 2 years. And those principles and foundations are the basis for our buyer program and our seller program, really how our agents operate. And so to be an elite agent or to have high output, there's some principles that we're going to share with you. From there, I got into real estate and now I race mountain bikes. So I love adventure, absolutely seek adventure. I love problem solving and very passionate about just going out there and exploring. Now, but here's the thing that I want to share with you. The best, the elite firefighters, the elite captains and pilots, the elite ice road truckers, and the elite real estate agents that sell and represent buyers and sellers at the highest level have discipline. And I would say more discipline. They also have the highest standards. The highest standards. They have minimum standards and they stay very, very consistent. They follow the process. They follow a process. It's interesting. When you think about pilots and you think about test pilots, you think a test pilot would be somebody with, or a fighter pilot would be somebody with extraordinary hand-eye coordination, extraordinary intelligence, cognitive ability, extraordinary skills. They used to call it the right stuff. Does a pilot have the right stuff? But the problem with that is they found with the right stuff, there were errors. They would experiment, and it's quite the opposite. The best fighter pilots aren't Maverick Tom Cruise. The best fighter pilots have extraordinary discipline, and discipline in following the process and minimizing errors. They always allow a safety of margin where risk isn't really a factor anymore. And so it's the same thing in real estate in the buying process. Is if your profit and output is really tied to your errors. My top agents and agents in your organization, the top agents require the fewest amount of leads. They require the fewest amount of leads. My top agents that sell 40, 50, 60, 100 deals a year require the fewest amount of leads because they lose fewer buyers. They lose fewer clients and they retain them long-term. The opening hand for all relationships working with buyers, this is a note taker. So I want you guys, this is a lecture series, by the way. It's a lecture series, so it's active learning. So active learning means you're actively taking notes. And here's your homework already. You have a coach, you have a leader, you have an owner that believes in you, that trusts you will do your best and do the right thing. So you're on this training because someone trusts that you're going to do the right thing and do your best. And your best is taking active notes. Your best is reporting to them what you learn. So at the end of every week, at the end of every training, I want you to write out what you learned. And I want you to share it with the person that invested in you in this training. Share it. That's an active learning process that we're going to have to deal with. Plus, as a pilot, as an expert in your field, as a leader in real estate, a leader of your clients and a leader within your organization, you report. You know how to write. The power of the written word. Extraordinarily important in this process. So you're going to report what you learned there. So moving on, we're going to be talking about some fundamentals to start with. Number one is in real estate, it's all about throughput. Working with buyers is about throughput, meaning the goal. And write this down. The goal is to sell a home to reach the finish line. That is the goal. Now there's going to be many goals along the process, and we're going to baby step every process along the way, and we're not going to skip steps. Anytime you skip step in a process, you will have to pay it back with interest. Any skip step is paid back with interest. In aviation, a skip step, you may get away with it, but over the long haul, over your career, skipping steps or items on a checklist or a process will not only potentially be paid back in interest, but could cost lives. It could cost lives, and that's not good. In your instance, you could lose a relationship. You could lose a client for life. So we need to follow the process, because our opening hand from now on, and a lot of you guys already have this principle, our opening hand is trust. Our opening hand is trust. For every lead, every call, every referral, every opportunity that comes our way, our opening hand is trust. A lot of real estate agents, not us, but other real estate agents, the average, the good ones, right? Not the experts or the great ones. They're a little judgmental. They're a little skeptical when a new lead comes in, because they've been burned in the past. And so it's hard to trust that that person on the other line or on your website is going to use you. Well, here's the thing. You got to earn that trust, number one. But at the same time, your opening hand needs to be, I'm willing to work for you and let reciprocity do its power and build a relationship long-term. Because we look people in the eyes at any part of the relationship, even at the beginning, and we look them in the eye and let them know that we're not interested in short-term relationships. So say, I'm not interested in short-term relationships. I'm only interested in long-term relationships, because long-term relationships allow compounding to take hold. Name a short-term relationship that's worked out well. Think about it. Is there any relationship that short-term is better than long-term? I doubt it. Definitely not in friendship. There's some analogies you could use, one-night stands, but long-term, that's not a good strategy. So we do long-term relationships, because the top agents, the highest producing buyer agents that work on the buyer production high output system, they hold on to clients longer, because the goal is throughput. The goal is to sell them a home. No one remembers you if you don't get them a home. They only remember if they got the home or not. So you're going to go through challenges. Every transaction, every buyer, every client's going to have challenges. There's going to be emotions. We're human beings. But at the end of the day, they're going to remember whether or not they got the home. They're not really going to remember what they paid for it, whether they overpaid or underpaid during the marketplace. So don't be pressured in that. Just remember, they want to get to the finish line. Now for us, We're willing to work with people until that happens. It's not 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, 365 days. Talk to any experienced agent or an agent long enough, they'll tell you stories about somebody they worked with for a long time and they finally bought a home. You need to be willing to work with people as long as it takes. Because if you're anything like me, you're going to be in this real estate game, industry, career for a long time. And you want to be there when they're ready on their timeline. So you can tell people this with passion and energy that I'm going to be here for you on your timeline, period. Now, what's going to happen is people are going to start buying. They are going to start reaching out to you. They're going to use you with that attitude. But if you come at them with motivational questions, how soon do you want to be in the home? How fast do you want to be in the home? You better hurry. It comes across as commission breath. And so we have to get a lot of these things out of the way right now. So throughput is the goal. The goal is the finish line. But also there's more than that going on here. Your team, your organization, your company has goodwill and reputation in the marketplace. You wouldn't be in this training through the inner circle, through this elite program, if you weren't one of the top teams probably in North America, if not the world. You have this massive brand, right? But here's the thing, people are depending on you. That's why people are investing in you in this training. To champion that brand, be a part of something bigger than yourself, but at the same time, you have the impact through each interaction with a lead and a person and a client and a showing to increase the goodwill and reputation of the whole. That's your purpose, to increase the goodwill and reputation as a whole. Because if everybody around you, if you're doing this training in the room, is counting on you to deliver an experience in which will increase the goodwill and reputation of the company. Joe DiMaggio, one of the greatest Yankees of all time, the Yankee Clipper, he had a 56-game hitting streak. Still hasn't been broken. Maybe a record that, one of the longest Major League Baseball records out there. He's famous for dating Marilyn Monroe. So this is back in the 50s. There's a story about his batting practice. There's a story about him at plate during batting practice where everyone's going through the motions, just practicing fundamentals, where he would hit a ball or at his last swing at bat during batting practice would sprint to first base. And if you know anything about baseball, kind of sandbagging it to first base during a game is not good at all. In fact, you're going to get pulled. The manager is going to let you have it. But during batting practice, you can get away with sandbagging. But Joe DiMaggio is sprint. And one of the reporters asked him, like, listen, Joe, you've done everything. You're going to be a Hall of Famer. You have the greatest record of all time. You're dating Marilyn Monroe. Why are you sprinting to first base? Why would you sprint to first base? Because you could get hurt, exhausted, right? Why? You don't need to do that. And he looked him in the eye and he said, listen, I don't know if someone's in the stands right now that's never seen Joe DiMaggio before. This might be the first time someone is seeing me play baseball. So here's my challenge to you, and this is what we embrace in goodwill and reputation of the company. Every single time we have an opportunity to call a lead that registered on our website, interact with somebody at a supermarket or in the public, take a phone call, make an outbound phone call, make a connection. That could be the first time they've experienced your company, your team. And to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, to reach high output productivity through buyers and sellers is a principle. You need to capitalize on it. You need to sprint to first base, just like your Joe DiMaggio, and that's discipline. The greatest pilots I flew with every day, they were professionals. Every day they were professionals, and you could count on them. You could count on them absolutely every day. So there's a principle that we're adopting today, and that is number of principles. Number one, you're the pilot in command. You're the pilot in command. That lead, opportunity, assignment, conversation, sphere referral that comes to you, right? You're the pilot in command, meaning you're the captain. You're in charge. Because in the airline industry, there's a CEO of the company. The CEO of the company is in charge of all the pilots, all the staff, all the employees, all the hiring, all the missions, right? Hiring equipment, getting the airplanes. When the airplane is at the gate, so when the airplane is at the gate, there's a CEO. However, there's a pilot and a co-pilot in the plane. As soon as that plane pushes back from the gate, the captain is the pilot in command and is now the CEO of the company. And is 100% responsible for the experience, the safety, the responsibility of the passengers on board. And your words matter. And we're going to talk about this when we're talking to buyers on the phone or in the emails. Your words matter. In aviation, we don't call them just passengers. We call them souls. We call them souls. And I think we've lost some of that in real estate. At least the average agent does this, chasing commissions. And they're missing the whole point. A lead is not just a lead, it's an opportunity to serve and to provide and demonstrate an experience that they've never experienced before that will increase the goodwill and reputation of your company. But it's more than an opportunity, it's a human being with human emotions that's having a human experience. And it's a soul, just like you, just like you. And so really that passion and that energy and the seriousness and the responsibility is what's going to raise your standards, right? That's going to raise your standards is by taking on the responsibility. Because you know that person on the other end of the phone, even if you haven't built a relationship with them yet, depends on you and is counting on you. And so you're going to hold yourself accountable for this. See, a lot of, how many calls did you make? How many contacts did you make? How many appointments did you make? Yeah, there's some of that accountability. That's kind of micromanaging. At the same time, if you hold yourself accountable to a high standard, which means I'm responsible for that person's experience because they're a human being, is really massively important. And that as soon as you take on that lead or that phone is ringing, right? Phone is ringing, you are the CEO of the company. If you don't answer that phone, that's not a very good leader. That's not a great CEO. That's not a great captain of an airplane. You got to answer the call. Figuratively and literally answer the call. You're at an elite organization, you probably have more opportunities you know what to do with, but, right, you got to answer that call. So pilot in command is what we're seeking to achieve and that we're owning as we move forward here to increase the goodwill and reputation of our company. Now, there's some minimum foundational things that we need to have. We need to have standards and we need to have minimum standards to move forward because I'm going to teach you a process. I'm going to teach you scripts and dialogues and follow up and how to show property properly and how to narrow down the search and how to house hunt and how to negotiate multiple offer situations and how to get them to the closing table and how to turn them into raving fans and get referrals and goodwill. Okay, I'm going to teach you all that. But if we have holes in our boat, right? If we have holes in our discipline, if we have holes in our behavior, it's not going to work out. We're still going to be missing out on things. So we need to capture all this. And so we need minimum standards to do that. So minimum standards, write them down. Here's our minimum standards. If your team organization has higher standards, guess what? Those are your minimums. But for me, these work really well. And they're going to make you millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. In fact, I'll give you a story here. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, billionaires. In fact, Warren Buffett, you probably know him, worth 100 billion. I don't know, something like that, pretty well. Did you know there was a third person? There was a third person. And he's rich, but he's not a billionaire. And they asked Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, like, whatever happened to that guy? And he said, well, he always was in a rush to get wealthy, to get rich. Warren and I, we always knew we were going to get rich. It was just a matter of when. And so for us, you follow this process, there's a belief. You believe that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, right? So don't rush it. Don't rush it. So here's some minimum standards. One, we answer 85% of all phone calls. We answer 85% of all phone calls that come to our phone. Now, obviously there's 15% there because you're going to be on showings, you're going to be in appointments, and that's rude and that's not professional. So we can't answer the calls. So 85% of all, write it down. I will answer 85% of all phone calls. Okay. Number two, I return all missed phone calls. This one thing will make you millions of dollars in commission. This one principle, this one little habit will make you so much money. It's unbelievable. It's because I know for a fact it's made me a ton of money. You will return all missed phone calls. Because you're going to start prospecting and following up and calling people, and they're going to see a missed phone call and they're going to call it back because you may not leave a voice message. I rarely leave voice messages because I like people to call me back. I call back all missed phone calls, all missed phone calls. That's at your company, that's at your friends, your family. You will lose a client over one missed phone call. You could show properties for years to people and you miss one phone call and they're going to call another agent. They're going to call an agent, they're gone. When it comes to finding a home in a hot market like today, we just got a deal, $600,000 deal last night because another agent didn't answer their phone after showing them homes for 6 months, but they didn't care. So we're going to return all missed phone calls by the end of the day. We are going to return, we're going to listen to all voice messages within 2 hours of getting the voice message and acknowledge receipt of the voicemail. So if someone leaves a voicemail, we're not only going to listen to it, but we're going to let them know we listened to it. It doesn't mean you do what they ask you to do in the voicemail. You just need to acknowledge it. Acknowledge receipt. Acknowledge receipt. This is a principle in aviation. It's very, very important. It's called a repeat. It's called a repeat or like a callback. So you make a call out and you have to have a call back. The person receiving information must acknowledge they received the information. Okay. When you receive information, communication, you must acknowledge it and show you have received it. What's awesome about this principle is the standard that you hold true, that you're going to pass along to your clients. When you deliver information to a lender, to an escrow officer, to a title officer, to a buyer, to a client, you expect them to acknowledge they got it too. How many times have you sent a property to somebody? Hey, what do you think? And they never get back to you. They're like, hey, do you like it? Do you not like it? Right? Well, you set a standard that every piece of communication we send, I acknowledge, and I expect you to acknowledge too. Just let me know you got it, right? In aviation, you have to have a callback. You have to have that read receipt, right? It's very important. So I return all voice messages. I listen to all voice messages and acknowledge I got them. Could be a text or a call. Hey, I got it, right? Emails. Read and acknowledge receipt of every email. Every email. Now, over the course of a decade and 5,000 transactions, I've seen the extraordinary, disciplined agents, and I've seen the ones that didn't make it. Despite the training, despite everything, they didn't make it. And I jump into their emails, right? Because I have the company email, and so I go into their emails. They have hundreds, thousands of emails that they never read. And if they did open them, they never let the person know they opened it. The perfect process requires no luck. This is a process in which we're not relying on luck because we're making sure we capture everything that comes our way. And we're closing all of our loops. Does this make sense? Right? There's some principles here and they're huge. Like if you want to study Jack Welch or Edward Deming, the theory of constraints, or the TPS Toyota production system, these are built into this. And that's high level stuff, right? So we're going to listen to a voice message. We're going to read, receive all emails. We're going to expect that of our clients as we move forward too, because you know, you're a top agent and you want high output. Everyone comes to me all the time. Hey, Nick, I want to work smarter, not harder, right? Well, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. You require less. Get more out of less. Period. Right? Some of the agents I've trained that they need tons of leads. They're always searching for the hot lead. They're relying on luck. We're not relying on luck. Okay. So we're going to acknowledge all that. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Now, we're going to start jumping into your schedule. Your schedule. Because you have to have control of your time. So there's 4 primary ways to be happy. And the happier that you are in real estate, the more you're going to want to do it. Would you agree? The happier you are, the more you're going to want to do it. The happier you are, the more people are going to be gravitated towards you. They're going to want to work with you because you're happy. Who wants to work with a bitter agent? Who wants to work with a negative agent? Who wants to work with a stressed out agent? I don't. Not at all. I want to work with a stoic, high emotional IQ agent that is predictable. You know, people love relationships because they know what to expect to a certain extent, right? Think about friendships. You kind of know, even if they're volatile, you know they're volatile. But for us, we want to stay consistent. Okay, so there's 4 primary ways to be happy. And the happier you are, the longer you're going to do this. Because you're going to get a lead or a client and they may not buy a home for 3 years. I want you to be happy this whole 3 years so you can make it to the finish line. Because remember, throughput, the goal is to sell them a home. I need you to stay happy for 3 years to get there. Because if you don't get there, you don't get paid. And you may not increase the goodwill and reputation of the company. So that's it's not a failure. It's just not our purpose. It's not our goal. So, because anything you start that doesn't make it to the end is waste. Anything you start that doesn't make it to the end is waste. It's kind of like the Will Smith, get on the treadmill. If you and I get on a treadmill, one of 2 things are going to happen. Either you're going to get off the treadmill or I'm going to die because I'm not getting off the treadmill. If I start working with you, one of 2 things are going to happen. You're going to buy a house or I'm going to die, right? Like I'm here for you until the very end. So I want you to be happy. So 4, write them down. There's 4 primary ways to be happy. Number 1, control of one's time. Be in control of one's time. Huge, massively huge. That's freedom. That's independence. Now, a lot of us gravitated to real estate because of this, because we're able to work and be flexible and control our time. But what happens is we start getting busy or we acquire a client and they start dictating our time. Hey, can you show me this property? Hey, can you give me this information? Hey, can you do this, right? And so they're interrupting our time and that can wear on some people and that can be burnout. And we want longevity in this process. So you got to be in control of one's time. So we need to outline an ideal schedule for you guys. We need to set some boundaries today. Okay. Number 2, you need connections and relationships to be happy. That's awesome. So the more people you can meet, the more relationships, long-term relationships, not short-term relationships, you can forge through your team and organization, through real estate, the happier you're going to be. What happens is a lot of times people see new people as more work, more stress, more time away from their family. But what you need to focus on is that connections and relationships. That's going to keep you happy. It's not about the money. Don't chase the money. Chase the connections and relationships. The money will come. One of my top agents, a very wealthy individual, told me one time, and it makes sense and it's true. If you chase money, it's going to run away from you. Chase the relationships. Chase the connections. It's a win-win, right? Control 1 times, connections and relationships. That's a metric. Okay. Number 3, be part of something bigger than yourself. Be part of something bigger than yourself. You have individual goals, and those are super important. In fact, satisfaction at work, meaningful work, is tied to individual performance and acknowledgement of that performance. but being part of a bigger mission is important too. So you're part of an elite team organization. Adopt the missions, adopt the values. What are your core values? What are your missions? What's your vision, right? Be number one in the marketplace. Be part of that. Champion that brand. Increase that goodwill and reputation. It's going to keep you happy. It's going to give you motivation and passion, okay? The fourth one is pursuit towards something. Pursuit towards something. So when you're in that hunt, you're in that pursuit of the new client or your goal, feels good. Reaching it is true. There's nothing that feels massively good. It's kind of a letdown when you reach goals, but the pursuit or knowing you're getting closer to that is massive. So take every single win in the process. So as we work with buyers, gravitate towards the progress part of it, because what happens is your brain releases dopamine every time you think you're getting closer to something. And it basically, the dopamine is telling us, the feel-good chemical is telling us, keep going, keep going, keep going. You're getting closer, you're getting closer. So we're 2/3 of the way through 2021. What's your goal to the end of the year? Some of you have reached your goals or getting closer to your goals. Hey, let's set a new goal for the end of the year. Let's set a goal for this 6-week training. I'm going to connect with 15 new clients, forge 15 new relationships. I'm going to increase the goodwill reputation by getting 20 reviews for my my company's Google page. I'm going to get so many reviews for social proof on my personal page, right? Get pursuit towards something. Don't tie it to the result always. The result is sales. Sales will come. Focus on the work, focus on the process, and the results will come. There's not a lot of dopamine in the result, right? You ever get a commission check and it's kind of a letdown? For me, it always was. Yeah, the closing table was kind of like, oh, it's a letdown. I don't get to continue towards this goal. I love the pursuit of the goal. Embrace that. Embrace that. Now, the same thing with your clients, right? They are in pursuit of something that feels good. Connections and relationships with you. They want a relationship with you. That makes them feel good. Being part of something bigger than themselves, that makes them feel good. Buying a home makes them feel good. They're doing something beyond themselves for their friends or their family. Also, tie them into your goals. They want to be part of your goals. So they represent one of your goals. Some of my best clients have supported me because they're part of my journey. Let them into your journey. Listen, I have a goal of 10 more sales this year, and you know, if you are one of those this year, that really helps me reach my bigger purpose, right? And if it's in 2022, you're going to help me that point. And our company's going here. Okay, perfect. Makes sense. So now let's get an ideal weekly schedule, because we have to control our time. We have to control our time. And within this schedule, we're going to be able to layer in the process. We're going to layer in the process. So number one, Monday through Friday, or actually Monday through Sunday, because it's a 7-day-a-week job. Embrace it. Embrace it. Don't fight it. Embrace it. It's a 7-day-a-week job or career. Monday through Friday, you're going to have office work. So office work is preparing for appointments, preparing to succeed. That's what office work is. Office work's not busy work. I recommend 3 hours of office work a day outside of Saturday and Sunday, 3 hours of office work a day. And office work is always going to be prior to an appointment. Office work will always be prior to prospecting. Office work will always be prior to follow-up, okay? So write that down. It will be prior to those times. Why? Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. You should never show a property for the first time with clients. So the first time you've ever seen a property shouldn't be with clients. That's like a pilot flying a plane for the first time with passengers. Not good. Now there's ways around it. You can show up early. You know, it's not like you have to train forever. You can show up early and get to know the house, right? 15 minutes early, 30 minutes early, right? So many agents are not disciplined to schedule their time so they can show up early and prepare the house, turn on all the lights, open up all the windows, right? Heck, sometimes you got to clean up the house, even though it's not your listing. You make it ready because you need to capitalize on that appointment. Also, prior to any appointment, a showing appointment, you need to prepare, right? You got to have your folder ready. You got to prepare your dress attire. You got to clean your car. You got to schedule the showings. You got to show up to the house early. You got to get the details. You got to look at the history of the home, the MLS history, how much does the owner owe? What are the sales in the area like? What are the property lines like? Be prepared for the appointment, right? Get more out of less, because it's the experience there. Buyers want to work with someone that is sharp as a tack and a knowledge in their field, or more knowledgeable in their field. That's what they want with, an expert in their field. So we're experts. It's clear as day. When we show up based on our preparation, the work we put into it, we are the expert. I was thinking about this when I was fighting fire, wildland fire, the top firefighters, after 16 days or 16-hour days, we would go back to the camp after fighting fire, and the top people, you know what they would do when it was time to eat chow? We use Pulaskis. A Pulaski has like a hoe on one side and then like it's an axe on the other, or the Sawyers would have a chainsaw. So after a 16-hour day, when it was time to eat, you know, good firefighters would rest and eat. Great firefighters would be sharpening their Pulaski, sharpening their chainsaw and oiling the chain and getting it ready for the next day. The top ones would do that. And you looked over at them and you were like, man, you are a badass. After 16 hours, you're preparing for tomorrow. Like, take a break. But no, it's just respect too. I mean, I'm thinking back on the go, respect. Same thing with the pilots. The pilots, after a long day of flying, they would go and check the weather for tomorrow. They would get the flight plan ready for tomorrow. They would run the performance numbers that night for tomorrow. They didn't wait right before the flight to work on performance. They did it that night. Respect discipline, respect the preparation. It feels amazing to do it, right? Have a culture in which the most discipline is rewarded, right? So we got office work, we got preparation. Now we have 1 hour of prospecting a day. That's a standard, the minimum standard. You're going to be making outbound phone calls, reaching out to new people to have connections and relationships, to make contacts so you can make a connection and relationship. 1 hour a day. Once you make contact with somebody, they're going to be in your follow-up, because most people aren't going to buy now. You're going to require some type of follow-up process. So you're going to have 1 hour follow-up a day. The last time block that's ultimately impressive and important for you today, no matter who you are, if you're a new agent or experienced agent, are appointments, appointment blocks. So Monday through Friday, I recommend 2 hours of appointment blocks per day, morning and afternoon. Be available for your greatest ability is your availability. Your greatest ability is your availability. So have an available slot every single day. Also, top agents, top performers are proactive, not reactive, and they are in control of their own time. So here's an example. For many years, and my appointment blocks were 10 to 11 and 2 to 4. I actually had 3 hours a day, because as you become more productive, you're going to require more appointments. And so you're getting rid of office work that you're delegating to leverage staff, support staff, systems, right? But if you're beginning out, 2 hours is good. And as you get super busy, increase your appointments. So mine were 10 to 11, 2 to 4. On Saturdays and Sundays, I would have 1 hour available per day. For me, it was 10 to 11, and Sunday it was 10 to 11, because I wanted, no matter what, I wanted the afternoons available on the weekend. I was willing to work weekends, but I would want to have freedom in the afternoon. And so the way it works is really important. Pick your appointment blocks. Those are your appointment availabilities. So now you can be proactive. So when you're making phone calls, you're making contacts, you're in pursuit of a connection and relationship, you're going to make a recommendation on your time frame first. You're going to beat them to the punch, right? So based on the information, so I'm having a conversation with someone. What I recommend we do, write it down, make recommendations. That's a tip today. Start making recommendations. Captains make recommendations. They're open for feedback, but they make recommendations. Experts make recommendations. Leaders give direction and make recommendations. You're a leader, start making recommendations. Not what works for you, what works for you. I'm here all the time. You make recommendations. What I recommend we do is let's get together and go over the home buying process. Let's go over the home buying process. No matter if you've never bought a home or if you bought 100 homes, let's go over the home buying process at our company. And in today's marketplace, we're going to do a full market overview, timing allowed. And if it makes sense, let's start looking at some homes. I have an availability. I don't even have to look at my calendar. I already know based on my ideal schedule that I have appointments tomorrow. So I go, based on my availability, I have an appointment available at 3 o'clock tomorrow. How's that sound? And I'm proactively offering that to them. Now they may say, I'm not available at 3. I go, okay, great. I can do 2. I'm not available at 2. I might say, well, I can do a morning tomorrow at 10. So you go through your progressions, your hierarchy. Does that mean you don't show homes at 5, 6, 7 if that's the only time they can do it? No, it just means you made an exception to the rule. So working with buyers, I recommend you have availability from 4 to 6, but it's up to you. Because I want you to have an appointment block that means that you're not pressured to go home early, which means you're not pressured to not prepare. Because every appointment you go on, every showing you go on, you prepare prior, and you allow 30 minutes after to make the offer, to go next steps. Huge mistake is people they're pressured personally to move on, so they have to move on. So it's not really the client saying, let me get back to you. It's the agent saying, I'll get back to you, because they have obligations, personal, family obligations. When sales go down, I know it's something personal. I know it's boundaries as an owner and team leader, right? So I recommend you have these appointment blocks, and now you can be proactive on it. You can be proactive on it. And when you're prospecting and following up, you're trying to fill your appointments. Your goal is to fill up your appointments every day, because that's where you make all the money. That's dollar productive activity. Now, so you're going to have the appointments. Now, if it's at 5, you're going to tell them, hey, I'm going to make an exception at 5, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now this is going to control your schedule. Now on Saturdays and Sundays, same thing. You decide what you want to do. Write out your schedule. Okay. Get a framework. Here's what you're going to do with the framework. You're going to share that with your team leader, your owner, or an experienced agent or a mentor or a partner, somebody that's in this with you right now. Share it with them and ask them. Give me feedback. Give me feedback, right? Give me feedback on the schedule. Is this going to get me to where I want to go? Here's my goal. Is this going to get me to where I want to go? Is this enough prospecting? Are these enough appointments? Is this going to work? Because everyone's a little bit different. Everyone has different obligations at home. Like they can't go from 10 to 11 because they have to pick the kids up from daycare or something. I don't know. I'm just making it up. So you're going to share that with someone in your office on your team and get feedback, and they're going to share it with you. This is your homework. You're also going to take this schedule and you're going to take it home. You're going to take it home tonight. You're going to take it home tonight and you're going to sit down with your family, your friends, whoever it is. And maybe if you're solo, it's easy. But if you have someone at home, I want you to sit down with them and let them know what your schedule is. This is my schedule moving forward in my real estate career. And you might be an experienced agent that's been working 80, 90, 100 hours. This is your opportunity to kind of rein in your schedule, right? But also maintain your productivity. Constraints are good for productivity sometimes, right? It makes you get things done quicker, right? Okay. And take out the wasted time. So share this with your friends and family because you need support at home. You need support at home. To be a high output agent, high productivity agent, you need support at home. You need it. You need spousal support, friend support, all that support, right? Because when you're in real estate, everyone thinks you're free all the time. Hey, can you go do this? Hey, can you grab the groceries? Hey, can you do this? Right? And you need to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I have an obligation. I'm doing office work right now. I'm setting up an appointment for tomorrow. I'm preparing for tomorrow, or I'm preparing for today, whatever it is, right? Everybody? Because they're going to demand your time, and we can't allow that. We can't allow that. Now, trust me, there's a dichotomy to that, but we need to schedule this. So have a real conversation with that, and you might have to modify it because you can't be pressured to have to go home early. So sometimes, yeah, it works for your clients at 5, but we need to work that out. We need to work that out. So that's your ideal schedule. Preparing for the appointments 30 minutes prior. Now, as we move forward, I need you to understand that we're going to be going over follow-up process next week. We're going to be going over some scripts and dialogues. And yeah, a couple other things to realize. We talked about a communication loop, okay? A communication loop, acknowledging receipt. I want you to start thinking about briefing and debriefing. So these are bookends. You bookend everything. So there's the law of primacy and the law of recency. You need to own these two experiences. These are principles. You need to own those experiences. The law of primacy is like a first impression. And then the law of recency is the last impression. The last impression is the lasting impression. Okay. Brief, debrief. In aviation, every time we met, we would brief. Every time we would depart, we would debrief. And so you're going to do this with your clients on the phone. You're going to do this with your clients on showings. Okay. And you need to own that. The middle's the middle, right? The middle's the middle, but you need to own these two things. So if you have a showing, you're going to gather everyone before you open the door or wherever it's at, and you're going to brief them, or at the office, you're going to brief them. This is what you should expect today as part of the process. Okay. If these things happen, then we can expect to do this next, right? So prepare them for like maybe some potential probabilities that may arise. If you like the home, chances are other people like the home, so you let me know. So you can start training them. So just like I'm training you today, you need to start using opportunities to train your clients on how to act. Train your clients on how to communicate with you, right? If you see something you don't like, let me know. If you see something you like, let me know. If you want information, let me know. Okay. Now at the end of everything, you're going to debrief. Okay, before we depart, let's talk. Before we depart, let's talk. And then write this down. Next steps. Always talk next steps. So in the debrief, what are we doing next? What are the next specific, measurable, actionable items that we're going to do? What am I responsible for doing? And what are you responsible for doing? That's a debrief. In your organization, some people may be giving you leads. There may be handoffs. You need to report back to people on your findings. If you go on appointments, have phone calls and you're struggling, you don't know what to do, or it went well, but you want to get even better, you need to reach out to a mentor, an experienced agent, someone in your office to ask them about it, run through it. In aviation, we used to do something called simulations. And that is simulating a future event. We would also simulate events that just happened. Right, so they do this sometimes in airplane accidents. So there's an accident, and then they'll take new crews and put them in a simulator and try to recreate that to see if it happens again. It happens again. So here's how it works. We also in aviation call it chair flying, which is like role playing, where two pilots would sit next to each other in chairs in an apartment, and they would be simulating tomorrow's flight. So from Atlanta to New York, we're going to be taking off. And they would run through all the checklists, right? Run through all the checklists. And from takeoff to landing to calling the air traffic control. The same thing can be done on showings, right? Writing offers. Grab somebody and simulate it. Imagine it, okay? Imagine it with the other person. So you grab a partner and you say, hey, I'm showing this property today. Let's simulate it, right? What do I say at the beginning? Practice the briefing, right? We've been looking at homes for 3 months. This is what we should expect from this home. This is how many offers, and then practice a debrief. So how are you going to close that appointment? What question are you going to ask to see if they want to make an offer? What information do you need? And so that other person is going to be that buyer, and they might have questions like, well, how long has it been on the market? What do you think it's going to go for? Do you know what the property lines are? Through this simulation, this thought experiment, you're going to show up to these appointments, and it's like you've already done it. It's like you've already been there. The best agents require the fewest amount of appointments. The best agents show the fewest amount of homes because they're prepared. And so this is part of that chair flying. This is part of that simulation that you need to work on. You can also simulate things with your clients too. It's massively powerful. Write down imagine. Imagine. The human brain is a supercomputer. And part of it was to protect us. And so we have this ability to like visualize. And some of the top marketers, you'll see people do it in the marketing space. Some of the top marketers will have you imagine something to invoke a reaction or an emotion to get you to do something. So you can do the same thing with your clients. And no matter where they are now, you can have them imagine themselves in the future. So instead of saying, how motivated are you? How soon do you want to be there? You might say, I understand you're not in a hurry, but let's imagine that for a second that you did decide to move forward to look at homes, or you did decide to move forward. What would be the next thing you would do or want to do or want to know or need to know? Okay. Say I'm going on a showing and I'm briefing the showing. So prior to the appointment, I might do a briefing over the phone. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm preparing for our appointment today. And I just wanted to go over a few items before we show up. That's a briefing over the phone. We're going to be looking at this home, this home, this home. Okay, awesome. Do you have any questions? Perfect. Now, imagine, I want to be prepared. Imagine that one of these homes or this home meets or exceeds your criteria. Imagine for a second that you do like it, all right? Are you prepared to make an offer? Or what questions would you need or what information would you need in order for you to make an offer? So you could almost take them to the point of impact before you get to the point of impact. Does that make sense, everybody? Because a perfect process requires no selling. So if I can simulate the experience before they have the experience, I'm not shocked and I'm prepared. Versus if I don't ask them, right? I have to be a really good closer at the end. So it looks, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it looks like you really like this house. Do you want to make an offer? Or do you have any questions? So you're kind of stumbling at the close, or maybe you just have to be really good at closing. For me, I would rather know up front. Imagine for a second, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you love the home and everything about it, and you feel like there's not going to be another home available that is better, right? What do you need to know? Are you prepared today to make an offer? What needs to happen? So you can do simulations a lot. That's some really high level stuff for everybody right now, but imagination, simulations, extremely, extremely powerful. Just like the beginning, there's an end. And I know the law of primacy is powerful. And so let's debrief today, because I have to practice what I preach. Let's debrief today. You have an ideal weekly schedule that you need to create that is your framework for how you operate every single day in real estate. You're going to share that with your owners that believe in you. They trust you to do your best and to do the right thing. That's why they're investing in you in this course. You're going to share that with them. You can do it by email. You're going to ask for feedback. Because to be high production, high output, you need feedback. Okay, ask for feedback. Is this going to get me to where I want to go? You're going to share that with your family because you need support and you need feedback. You might have some family members that say, "Hey, this is awesome. You're working way too much, and we want you to when it's time to perform. We want you to perform at the highest level because it's about experience. Performing at the highest level gives the highest quality real estate services, which increases the goodwill and reputation of the company. You are the pilot of command of the experience, and you're accountable and responsible for the experience and the responsibility of the person that you're working for and the people next to you in your organization." So with that being said, we're gonna end the meeting, and then next week, same time, same place, going over follow-up, scripts, dialogues, what to say, how to influence, how to mirror properly, how to move them through the process every step of the way. All right, y'all, take care. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Sell a lot of homes and be great.